Hello, I'm going to be discussing the similarities between Nekozuna, or Glitter Pop, and Kittyzone. I'm doing this as a way of research, considering I find this comparison very interesting. I find the history behind this very interesting, and want to make a starting point where I can theorize further for the future. I also want to emphasize that I am not a commentary YouTuber. I am simply a researcher who studies interesting phenomenon, such as this. Anyway, with that reminder, I'm going to start explaining the similarities and even lore between Kittyzone and Nekozuna. We need to know where Sody Pop came from, because originally this wasn't the original. The original looked like this. Before a particular incident occurred, you see, Sody Pop only came into existence after the incident with Nekozuna. I can't exactly say what happened, but I can describe it in a manner which is allowable for the procedure. Nekozuna and Kittyzone were grooming each other, and what happened is that they eventually split apart. This is basically where Kittyzone started to spiral. It's important for me to give this context to support and know why this happened in the first place. Due to these events, Kittyzone began to have many psychological/emotional turmoil/reactions towards this. They were essentially using coping mechanisms in order to process and cope with the events. This video is called, "Why Does It Hurt to Love You?" This indeed does indicate something, that they still had feelings for Nekozuna after the incident. This is common from grooming victims. Although I haven't looked too much into the psychology behind such common events, I will make a generalization that Kittyzone still wanted Nekozuna, despite the problematic and complicated circumstances. There is this other video where it says, "Do I look like him?" which is a direct reference to Nekozuna. This highlights the strongly present obsession that remains after the incidents and events. Later down the line, you can see they start to resemble or align themselves with Nekozuna. This can be seen as a coping mechanism in order to feel more comfortable with one's identity and self. You can see by looking at Sody Pop, they heavily resemble Nekozuna, with all the characteristics and aesthetics. If I were to point out what these are, I would do some of the following examples. The age regression stuff, such as binkies, diapers, milk bottles, etc. The reason I'm pointing these out is because Nekozuna himself has also commonly possessed these traits, which is something I find interesting as a commonality. Another thing is the eyes. The eyes are blank and circular, which is something Nekozuna has with his OC. I point this out because this is something I've instantly recognized, which is that Nekozuna and Kittyzone have the exact same eyes. Also, if that isn't very convincing, the rainbow patterns themselves are also something they have in common. Other than the appearance of Sody Pop, there was this other thing I found that also links Nekozuna and Kittyzone. Kittyzone made this song playlist, in which were made by Kittyzone themselves. Something interesting is that Kittyzone is trying to become a music composer, just as how Nekozuna is also a music composer. That's not the only telling feature, however. Kittyzone made a song that was a direct reference to Nekozuna. "Love You Forever" was a song collaboration between Kitty Dog and Nekozuna. This is an extremely strong comparison to make, considering it strongly supports the connection between Nekozuna and Kittyzone. Alright, before ending this video, I want to yet again state this isn't a commentary video meant to criticize the victim. In no way is this video a malicious attack. However, it's only for research purposes, considering this hasn't been discussed much by anyone at all. I thought I would be the one to cover it. I find this type of stuff very interesting on how such processes work and how developing these theories have expanded the understanding of such phenomenon. Anyway, that's all I have to say. If anyone has anything to say in the comments, let me know. You can also join my research Discord server, which is pasted/embedded into my YouTube profile.